All right, so we are heading to the very first apartment building that I ever got into, and we sold it about, I think it was like I think it's coming up on a month that we sold it. And talk about just a shit show. All right, so we are about 3 miles out from the city that we bought this first building in, and not knowing a whole lot as far as what needed to go into like the thought process of why would you purchase in this particular city or state or town, whatever. It's a 10-unit building, and when we bought it, it was listed at like $130,000. So some of you who are watching are thinking, oh my gosh, 10 units for 130 grand, like that's unheard of. I can go buy a single family home for that kind of money. Well, the story behind it was an older guy. He'd had it for I don't know how long, multiple years, and self-managed it, picked up the rent, made the repairs. Like, you talk about wearing a lot of hats. This was this guy, right? He was doing everything. So he got to the point where he was getting older. He wanted to retire, and I had been looking for an apartment building to purchase. So this one came on the market, and I was perusing the MLS, which is the multiple listing service that, as a real estate agent, I subscribed to. And so I would check that thing every day, and it was like, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the morning or something, and I was clicking through, and I saw 10 units for $130,000. I'm like, surely this is wrong, right? Like, maybe this should be, 1.3 million. Something was off. So that next morning, I had no idea where this town was at, and it's Alexandria, Indiana. So there's like a total population, I think, of like 7,000 people. But so I drove up here the next morning, and decent looking building. So this place was built in 1890, and it was pretty boring. It looked honestly like a big White Castle. And so I called the broker, was asking her, hey, what's the deal on this? And she kind of gave me the rundown, and so I submitted an offer. And like I said, this first multifamily building I'd ever made an offer on. So I was sitting there on my computer like, okay, what the heck is going on here? But made the offer and started negotiations. And all the while this was happening, I was in the process of selling a couple of my single family rentals. And so the plan was to sell some of these single family rentals and then use that money to get into something bigger. So we did this thing called a 1031 tax deferred exchange, which means we sold one of the single family rental properties and we rolled over the capital gains into this next 10 unit building. So the funds that I used to buy that single family rental actually paid for the down payment and gave me the ability to get into this 10 unit property. So the plan was, we knew that the previous owner was renting these units for probably lower than what they could go for on the market, right? So we figured, okay, if he's renting a 1-bedroom unit for $400, we feel like after we go in and renovate the unit, speaking of the devil, here it is. After we go in and renovate the unit, we can bump the rent $150, right? So $550, maybe bump it $200 to make it $600. You start bumping rent $150, $200 across 10 units, that's adding a whole lot of value, right? So that's what we did. And self-managed the thing for a couple months and realized, okay, this probably isn't the best idea moving forward. Let's try to get a professional manager in here. We had quote unquote stabilized it to some degree. And by saying that, I mean, we moved the tenants from week to week to monthly, right? So everybody's on a month-to-month lease now. And when we handed it over to the management company, they were going to get everybody on new leases. They were going to help with the lease-up process for some of the new units that we had renovated. Long story short, after about a year and a half of this management company in there, and they did an okay job for most of the time, we started to see a pretty deep decline in occupancy. And so for a long time, we sat at 90, 100%. And over time, it slowly started to go down. We're like, what's going on here, right? Like, we're going in, we're renovating these units. Like, it's only 10 units in a pretty small town. Surely we should be able to fill these things up. We'll come to find out, the management company was not really marketing this building and or fielding the calls to be able to fill the units, right? So we ultimately made the decision to fire the management company, which, you know, kind of sucks now, because now we're having to go back and take care of the maintenance calls, and so there's more time invested. And so luckily, with the help of my mom and dad, we literally ran a, you know, family operation, mom and pop kind of deal, where, hey, you know, mom's running the back end on the accounting side, I'm running up here showing units, doing, you know, a little more hands-on. And that's what we did. So we did that for a couple of months, and then we had someone who was local to the town who approached us about buying the building. And we talked it over, and we said, hey, you know what? That's actually a decent idea. We'll take it. And we entertained their offer. And so we sold that building for just under 200 grand. So we bought the thing for 125,000. At the time, it was, I think, 90% occupied. You know, had renovated some units, gone in and done the value add play, if you will. And then, like I said, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, we sold that thing for, I think it was 196,000. The moral of the story here is, you know, learn from your mistakes and take that on to hopefully better yourself and what it is that you're doing on future deals, because everyone's going to be a little bit different, and you're going to learn something new on each deal that you do. And so for me on this one, you know, don't get me wrong, it was a good learning experience, but what I learned, I will take on to every other deal I do in the future, based on, hey, what are the things to look for? How do you want to partner? How much, you know, there's a lot more that goes into it. So I'm very thankful for the experience. I'm glad that, you know, we kind of, in a sense, got rid of a headache, but sometimes that's how it goes. So hopefully what I've shared with you has, you know, in some way, shape, or form added value when you're out looking for multifamily apartment buildings like this, so that you're not making some of the mistakes that I made. All right, so we just got to the property. We're gonna hop out, take a quick look around, see what we see. All right, let's do it. So I like slept in one of these units. So I have this running joke with a buddy of mine, where if you don't sleep in the property, you don't own it. So we were working on one of these units, or I was working on one of the units, and I just ended up staying in there one night. But you know, it's part of it. Sometimes it's not always super glamorous. So there's 2 units out here. This is one. This is unit number 10, and then unit number 9 over there, and then the other 8 are actually there's a separate entrance. But I'll show you what I was talking about over here. If we were gonna keep the building, I was gonna do like a badass mural on this wall, but obviously never got to it. So this is what I was talking about. 1 electric meter, 1 gas meter, 1 water meter. So we were responsible for all the utilities. And you know, when you're looking at multifamily properties, you want to make sure that things are individually metered, meaning that everybody's on separate electric. Sometimes you can't get everybody on separate water, but the less utilities you have to pay for as an owner, the better off you're going to be. So, quick tip, this is the back of the building. Like I said, built in 1890, so pretty old. So I had this wise idea that when we bought the building, so it actually came with this vacant lot across the street here, and this house next door came on the market for like $5 grand or something, and it's a complete teardown. So I ended up buying it for $1,000. And what I was going to do is I was going to level that, and I was going to build like storage units across the street. But come to find out, the cost to do that and how little of a population this was, to me it just didn't make sense. So I ended up actually donating that house and donating the land, and I got more on the donation than what I paid for the house. So I actually used it as a tax write-off. But yeah, kind of a bad decision on my part. You live and you learn. But there's just like a bunch of stuff in there. We can go check it out. But I actually had the fire department come out here because I thought I was going to have it torn down until I figured out the cost of how much it was. But I had the fire department come out, and I was gonna have them try to burn it down, do like a controlled burn, but it was too close to the other house, and they ended up just doing like a little practice run on. So a little bit of a bad decision on my part, because I bought this thing not really thinking about who's gonna cut the grass. Then I gotta pay for utilities, because even in a vacant house, you still have water and sewer you gotta pay for. But I thought this lot combined with the one we had next door came with the purchase of the building. I thought, oh, hey, why not? Like, I even actually looked at buying that one as well, and was gonna have this whole corner to develop on, but the population's just not there. So the city was like getting mad at me because I wasn't cutting the grass. I wasn't really taking care of the property. It was just, it was already in bad shape. But I ended up working a deal with them, like I said, where I just donated it, and it just kind of took a little bit of weight off my shoulders. Yeah, it's pretty bad in there. So we actually so all that stuff, I was a little too cheap to get a dumpster, so we would renovate a unit, and I'd just throw all the shit in there. so like we'd be taking it from downstairs. It'd be like old carpet, furniture. We like bag up trash bags of garbage, and we just throw it in here, because I had the intention to eventually just demo like flatten the thing, and I figured like an excavator would take all that stuff out. But now it's the city's problem, not mine. So, you know, no ill will intentions, but it is what it is. They're ready for Halloween already. Hoop. No mail. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Go ahead and smash that like and subscribe button, and see you on the next one.
Is this a YouTube video?
That is. You guys want to be in it? I don't know who that was, but